This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Jeff Carl. I am Anthony Mormino on this. Well, for us, what is a mild first week in December out there. Even though it was rainy and dreary and gray and overcast, it wasn't brutally cold. But Jeff has told me they're already off the turf in New York, and that has to be today's weather because even though we started with fog yesterday in the greater New York City area, Tom Durkin coming on the horn at about 11:01 and gave us that news, and they showed the first race while using the pan shots, and then it was fine the rest of the day. And the turf races, multiple turf races yesterday, looked okay for this time of year, but they are off the turf today in New York.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to get a significant amount of rain today. So I think, as you said, just
snow.
looking for, and there was only two races. There was a 6th and the 9th. I think the 6th at 35,000, and 9th was a maiden 35,000. So there was plenty of MTOs in the 6th race, not so many in the 9th race.
I must have the wrong 6th. The 6th isn't an entry-level allowance. Doesn't matter, but the 9th is
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the 6th is
35,
and the 9th is the 35.
Only
yeah.
one for tomorrow. I mean, we are clearly, we're wrapping up the main track at the Big A, and we will be wrapping up the turf course. I mean, there have been, I would say we're coming up on, my quick math tells me about my 16th inner dirt track season for Capital Off-Track Betting, and I would say 50% of the time we have run turf races concurrent with the inner dirt track. I don't know if we're going to reach that today, but the turf, I mean, it's not awful. I mean, it's not, it's looked worse before. I mean, I watched the two races yesterday. By then, the fog had dissipated. You could watch it rather easily, and it looked okay to me for the first week of the meet. I want to kudos to Chucky Lopez. I have no idea how he won the first race yesterday. We see horses from time to time, not very regularly, but from time to time, come back in the lane on dirt. But the comeback yesterday in the opener was about as much as I've seen a horse get passed and come back. Recently we saw, obviously, Honor Code win the Remsen and come back. But he wasn't passed as much as Chucky Lopez was yesterday and came back aboard the winner in a very, very nice ride. And I'll say this, I'm not so sure he came back on the part of the racetrack that you wanted to be down inside, so maybe even extra kudos. That is to be determined later when we start to see these horses come back. But many of the other horses on the dirt were winning in the 3 and 4 path rather comfortably, not down inside. So an interesting day in New York, as thankfully I was pointing out that usually, Jeff, when Thanksgiving is November 28th. Usually we're on the inner dirt track this week, but an extra week of the main.
Yeah, and the Chucky Lopez factor, I had to utilize it on a couple of races at Aqueduct today because we know Chucky likes to be out there on the front end.
Doesn't want to get dirty.
And sometimes these horses, they respond to it. And I there's a couple of them we'll see in Aqueduct I think might respond to Chucky's aggressiveness today, especially with a muddy track.
It does. Jeff says they're going to get, it doesn't appear as if they're going to miss. Doesn't appear as if there's much chance they're going to miss the rain at all today. So we're expecting moisture in the racing surface today down at the Big A. Remember, they're off the track. Laurel yesterday, a racetrack that, I like to follow. I like the circuit. I like the turf course. I like the one-turn miles. I like the fact that they're one of the few jurisdictions outside of New York that run different distances in the turf sprints. They don't run very many at 6, but they do. And we kept, Jeff, we've called this the week of, I had Parks on Monday. We had Tampa on opening day on Wednesday, which was beautiful. We had Laurel yesterday. We have Gulfstream today. And so far this week, we have knocked the ball out of the park. And yesterday, I was shocked that Herem paid over $20 to win. Thankfully shocked. So that was good at Laurel. And I've said this before. I've always thought Laurel should host the Breeders' Cup if for no other reason that they brought international racing to the United States in the 50s with the DC International. But I've been told that there's little to no chance that will ever happen. But I will say one thing: their turf course is fantastic. It is great. I don't know if they were first or Gulfstream was first, that went to no hedges at all, huge track, and they choose the lanes just like Arlington and Gulfstream Park does. and it makes for a beautiful season, and they still have turf racing going on down there.
You know, when I rode at Laurel back in the 90s, we could get into December quite easily. I mean, it's a little bit warmer climate, but
Yeah, Mid-Atlantic, sure.
the turf course there, I mean, they're in kind of a little bit of a wetlands there, so they do get a lot of moisture in the ground. It keeps the grass growing well into November. Now, as you said, Anthony, they have done an awful lot to the turf course since I've been there.
Yes,
and not an awful lot of improvement, so you'd have to think it's even better.
What's funny was I asked Dave Rodman one time when I was filling in on Racing Across America. I remember, and it wasn't the 60s, folks, when there was a mile and a 16th shoot at Laurel, and Dave said, not since he's been there, and Dave's been there a long time. I was like, it couldn't have missed him by like more than an hour. But I'll tell you, I'll tell you a funny thing. If you go to Google Maps, and I like to do that often, and
that is fun.
You can find the Great Barrington, you can find Northampton, you can see where the racetrack used to be. You go to Green Mountain, you can see where it was. But I will say this, at Laurel, the mile of 16th shoot, you'd have to be Sherlock Holmes to find out where it used to be. Matter of fact, I doubted myself so much, I was like, maybe I was making this up, but there was a mile of 16th shoot at Laurel, which made it easier for the jocks than starting out in the parking lot, but it's gone, and there's no remnants of it, and Dave Rodman doesn't remember it, but I do remember Spectacular Bid setting the track record going a mile of 16 out of the chute at Laurel. I know that was like 1979, but trust me, into the 80s they ran out of the chute, but you can't find it at Laurel. But we got lucky yesterday and knocked it out of the park, and today is Gulfstream Park. We'll have that Friday and Saturday, and Jeff will have the Big A.
I think that chute is part of a softball field now. We have 10 races at Gulfstream Park we need to get through. Let's start with the opener. It is 6 furlongs. It is a claiming event. Fillies and mares 3 and up, they're in for a claiming price of $6,250.
Now, intriguing to me, I mean, the people at Gulfstream Park were calling last weekend opening day for their meet, even though obviously we've seen them go through the summer, and quite frankly, some of the horses that ran down there in the summer shipped out of town and did quite well. Thank you very much, Hopeful Stakes runner-up. But they now say they are officially underway. We saw this a couple of years ago where I think they started on December 1st or November 30th, and it has been wildly successful. So let's take our shot at my inaugural trip to Gulfstream Park this year and keep the positive momentum going. 7-6-2 in the opener as we go to the outside. My Shotzi gets the top pick, has had only one start since Labor Day weekend. That was a victory here at Gulfstream Park for the second lifetime score. This offspring of Henny Hughes drew the other side of the starting gate that afternoon to score from the number 1 post position. Now gets the other side of the starting gate and is our top pick, number 7, My Shotzi. For second, number 6, Pom Pom Power was a 62.50 claim out of the most recent effort, which was a good third place finish. This horse has been running at Gulfstream Park throughout this summer, beginning on July 1st. Hasn't missed a step. This offspring of Pomeroy draws in well here. See if we can improve a little bit off of that third place finish. For third, at 5-2 on the morning line, number 2, One Wild Kitty, scheduled to make the Gulfstream Park debut. Also, this horse has been running almost exclusively on the poly track, whether at Presque Isle 9 times in a row or the most recent effort, a nice score at better than 25-1, going 7/8, not plus the 184 feet under Harry Vega at Keeneland. Makes the first start at Gulfstream off the October 18th victory, the offspring of the Wildcat. 5-2 on the morning line, but it's 7-6-2 in this afternoon's opener. And one thing I'll say about Gulfstream, and I mentioned it about Laurel and almost all the tracks that I get assigned, don't have a feel. I talked about Tampa Bay on their opening day. We're now just beginning to get into a rhythm at Gulfstream Park. The fact they just took 4 days off after running on the weekend. But as I say, for me in particular, how the track is playing is unbelievably important. As the frequency of racing at Gulfstream Park picks in, hopefully not only will I be able to dial into it, but I'll be able to correctly dial into it. But right now, you know, you're talking about tiptoeing into the waters.
Moving on to the second at Gulfstream Park, mile and the 16th on the turf. 3 and up, which have never won 2 races at the claiming event. They're in for a claiming price of $20,000.
And in the turf contest, we have 10 because the 1 and the 9 are MTOs, and I've talked many times about the stuff that I'd like to see the New York Race Association get involved in, and Gulfstream Park, where the main track only horses draw into the field instead of being parked on the outside. Does it make it a little more difficult for public handicapping because they're all over the map? Yes, but I think it's a little fairer to the racehorses and putting me out a little bit. I think the racehorses come well before that. Love this race here this afternoon. They will be at 96 feet, which I believe is the outermost rail setting. I'm not sure if it's Gulfstream Park that has one greater than 100, but we'll find out. 7, 4, 11. Number 7 gets my top pick, going out for the very, very good Wayne Catalano. Now, this horse has run consistently off the board of late, has freshened up for better than 2 months. The one Gulfstream Park race, folks, that was in a restricted claimer for more bucks last year. Now, when I look at more bucks, I also at Gulfstream Park, I like to look at the date. It was the Ides of March. So that is the teeth of the Gulfstream Park meet. This is not the teeth of it. This is outstanding betting racing. So I like the 7 here with Joe Rocco Jr. scheduled to get the mount. I think this horse, off of the freshing, I do expect to see a marked improvement returning to Gulfstream Park. For a second, number 4, Dylan Davis takes the mount. 4, Wesley Ward coming back. Second race off of September 7th, ran on Veterans Day, rather ambivalently at this level, comes back today. 4, third, going toward the outside, second from the inside. Number 11, Chuffed to Bits. Now, Edgar Prado gets the mount this afternoon, which I find to be an intriguing move here. I also find third race off of Freshings to be my favorite spot on the map. We draw the outside-ish for this offspring of English Channel, but perhaps we can sneak in at a big price here, getting lost in the wagering. 7, 4, and 2 in the second from Gulfstream.
Moving along to the third at Gulfstream Park, 6 furlongs. It is an allowance optional claiming event. Fillies and mares 3 and up.
And I think, unlike the most recent years past, because I think this is year 3 they've been running in early December, the field sizes haven't been beefed up, and I think that's because many of the outfits haven't gotten down to Gulfstream Park yet. But it'll I think it'll get to where it's been great the last couple of years soon enough. 7, 2, 3, 4. Aria, must be an opera fan, I guess. This horse has only run one poor race in the career. That was a turf try. The sprints on the dirt have been terrific. 5 of them never off the board, comes off of a third place finish at this level most recently, draws the outmost post position, and gets my top pick for David Fawkes, the offspring of Northern Fleet, who has hit the board in all 3 tries at Gulfstream, including a win, a place, and a show. For a second, my fear in here, and this is just conjecture on my part, that the 1 is an A-plus candidate to scratch off. This horse is scheduled to make, number 1, that is, the first start in 13 months, and you drew the rail. If they stay in coming out of the Delta Princes of 2012, it would certainly seem to be practice for me, but I'm wondering if they scratch out. And my second pick gets the Bedeviled Rail, number 2, Sweet and Discreet, a impressive winner, other than most recently on October 27th for Todd Pletcher and Joe Bravo. Joe Bravo gets the call back, and it's my understanding that Mrs. Robsham, who has kept up the good fight since the passing of her husband, is now packing it in. So the familiar maroon and gold silks, I think, are going the way of the dodo bird. I think that there is a dispersal sale forthcoming for his third, number 6, Magic Mesa. Trisha Farrow, who we rode to great success recently, sends out this runner after just getting beat at the Meadowlands on the turf. 7, 2, 3.
That's going to take us to the 4th race at Gulfstream Park, 5.5 furlongs. It is a claiming event for 3 and up, which have never won 2 races since June 6th. They're in for a claiming price of $6,250.
And other jurisdictions have had older horses run on the dirt, 5.5 for a long time. We don't do it in New York very often, although I know that we are going to be doing it in New York on the dirt this week. 7, 4, and 10. My top pick is Blings Express. A big price in here, an impressive out-of-the-picture winner 2 races back, nearly winning by 10. Follow that up with a hit-the-board finish. That was at a starter optional claiming race at Thistle Downs. Talked about the horses and where they were coming from on opening day at Tampa Bay, the likes of which you'd never seen before, because there's no circuit down there, but there is a circuit in South Florida on the East Coast side. But we ship in from Ohio with Gabriel Saez in the board. We are 1 for 4 lifetime at Gulfstream Park, winning going 7/8. For a second, number 4 is Smart Humor. Scored a B-level claimer a couple races back, racing the one-turn mile. After that, tried starter allowance in the one-turn mile. For being nearly 20-1 and finishing off the board, folks, this was a strong pace race. And the horses, quite frankly, I know this sounds silly, were just too fast for Smart Humor. Now we come back in a dated claimer, 62.50. Boy, I'll tell you, we get anything resembling the last effort, and we're going to see a marked improvement at a good price. For third, number 10, Drinks to Go, ladies and gentlemen. Has never won or placed in 9 tries at Gulfstream Park, but what I like to say is an athlete going in the right direction. Horse is running in some of the best form he has in probably a year and a half. I know it's a 9-year-old, but he's been very, very competitive going 5.5. We'll take a shot this afternoon. 7, 4, 10 in the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, interesting comment you made about the older horses running 5.5 as opposed to 6 furlongs.
Right.
And really, the mindset of a jockey, the difference between riding a 5.5 and 6 is significant. I mean, you think, gee, dynamically, that's only a half a furlong.
Yes.
It's only a 16th of a mile. But the start is so much more crucial at 5.5. Regardless of whether you want to be on the lead or come, I mean, if you don't get off to a good start, you're basically done at a 5.5. So yeah, your mindset as a jockey is a little bit different riding 5.5 and 6 as opposed to 6 furlongs.
Well, as we like to say when we watch it better, Richard Migliore made the observation, and I think he's about 20 years late, that jocks and pace and getting out. Did you miss the newsletter? And the Mig, who is a former jockey, I'm like, in New York, those of us who have followed it daily, except for Saratoga, where they do seem to get on the engine, it is like not a lost art. It's just not interested. There's very little pace. Matter of fact, I was surprised at the pace in the turf races yesterday. I think the teletimer didn't quite do the horses justice, but we've talked about it, as bettors for a long time, the real passiveness of jockeys. And I made the claim in 1991 that if I ever wanted to be an agent, I was going to get Martin Pedroja's book, bring him to the East, and just say, bust out everything.
Do Chucky Lopez.
Yeah, just do it all the time,
Yeah.
and you will change the context of the jockey colony, because they're going to have to chase you, and then it's going to be on. But I'd like that to be, true, because I've talked about the 5 and 5.5. I'm not so much against the inside rail, because the outside guy has to make a decision really quick. He gets into that turn. Now he has to decide how much ground he wants to give up. Yet when you go 6 furlongs, you have 2 furlongs to drill the guy on the inside before geometrically it starts becoming a disadvantage.
Right. Moving along to the 5th at Gulfstream Park. It is 1 mile. It's a maiden claiming event for 2-year-old fillies. They're in for a claiming price of $25,000 down to $20,000.
And I didn't pick this horse because of names, because I don't think I've done it since I probably was 5. But 5, 7, and 1, and number 5 is Here Comes Honey Bobo.
Is that your favorite show?
I don't even know what it is. I just like the words. Is it a TV show?
Yeah, we'll talk about it during the break.
If it's not sport,
I don't watch it myself, but I know what it is.
The last television show I watched was Lou Grant in 1977. Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, apparently, is a television show. But I like coming back at a mile, the 3rd race, off of the August 24th effort. And the second one at this distance was a marked improvement. And I've said it many, many times before, and it seems like I've been saying it more often recently. I like going up the money ladder at the same level. We're maiden claimers. You lose and you run back for $9,000 more. For me, it's, as I've said before, about horses who might take 10 tries to break their maiden and then go against the winners for the first time. For me, it's about the athlete finding sea legs, trainers' intentions. That doesn't matter to me. We're going in the right direction. They also tipped their hand a little bit, I think, by running for 25 next outgoing. We think we're going in the right direction. So number 5 is my top pick, with Juan Lieva scheduled to ride for the first time in the 5th career start. For a second, number 7 going out for the 3rd career start. First one since September 7th. Back-to-back 5th place finishes. This time now, the offspring of Fusaichi Pegasus runs for a tag with Jose Lescano, who is getting the early drop on the big-time jocks down in Florida. For 3rd, the rail, number 1, Sharp Words. A sneaky good debut. Comes back at the same level, and we're probably not going to get 13-1. Now, I'm sure when the entries came out, they were like, darn, we drew the rail, because I think they liked what they got in their off-the-board debut, and they reach out and get Luis Saez, 5-7-1 in the 5th.
There you have Anthony's selections for Gulfstream races 1 through 5. We're going to take our first break. During the break, I'll get Anthony up to speed on Honey Boo Boo. Please stay tuned. You're watching the OTB TV Network.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right, the 2013 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2014 National Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month, the Capital Cup on December 7th. So sign up today online at CapitalOTB.com or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook. And don't forget our Showviver Series, Capital OTB's online handicapping contest. I'm Seth Merrill. Join me weekdays at 10 for Racing Across America. We'll look at important races from around the country, get insight from top handicappers and analysts, and preview the upcoming week in racing. That's Racing Across America, weekdays at 10, right here on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. Before the break, Anthony gave you selections for Gulfstream races 1 through 5. We're going to move along to race number 6. It is 1 mile. It is a claiming event for 3 and up, which have never won 2 races. They're in for a claiming price of $30,000 down to $25,000.
And for the turf contest, we have 11 because the number 8 is an MTO. 697, ladies and gentlemen, kicking off the second half of today's action from Gulfstream. Mr. William gets my top pick, and this horse is a razor-sharp turf runner, and I would feel very, very Christmassy to get 8-1 on this offspring of Shakespeare. And I've said this before about Shakespeare, and I understand that Bill Mott is the youngest trainer in the Hall of Fame, to get in the Hall of Fame as the youngest trainer. And when he entered Shakespeare, and this is going back 2001, when he entered Shakespeare in the Breeders' Cup Turf, I thought he missed the boat. I thought Shakespeare was the most brilliant miler. But, you know, he's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not. But, if you look at Shakespeare's lifetime past performance, I think he ran last in the turf. I could be mistaken, but my point being that I think of Shakespeare as a brilliant middle distance turf runner. Look at his lifetime PP someday, folks. Now, you got the long layup, but I know he's a son of theatrical, but I have Rahi on the bottom, middle distance turf. I like Lisa Lewis's training work. We saw this horse sprinting in New York, but we get to root this afternoon. In the career debut, going a mile on the turf, it's better than it looks. I like our chances very much. We draw a brilliant post position in the middle of the pack. Mr. William, my top pick. For a second, number 9, Farmers Club. This is an Augustin stable, Jonathan Shepard runner. Broke its maiden going a mile and 2 turns on the Presque Isle to Pita surface. After that, ran on the Tapeta again, and then first-time turf was at Keeneland on October 23rd, going a mile. Gets back to the turf this afternoon for this offspring of the great Smart Strike. And for who, by the way, I often talk of him as a stallion, and he is great. Look up his record someday and realize how good he was on the racetrack as a forgotten runner. For third, number 7, Zemater D. If this race wasn't as deep as it's presenting, this 20-1 would be even more attractive. I think Ralph Nix sends out a live runner in here, an offspring of Awesome again. The very competitive, juicy 6th race, 6-9-7.
Moving along to the 7th at Gulfstream Park, 6 furlongs. It is a claiming event for 3 and up, which have never won 2 races. The claiming price is $20,000 down to $18,000.
And here's hoping the morning line odds person knocked this out of the park. 485, ladies and gentlemen. The 4 is Risky Guy, who is 15-1 on the morning line and makes the first start versus winners this afternoon. After breaking the maiden on July 5th at Monmouth Park, after showing nothing in the debut, a marked improvement in the second start, and then a victory in the third, we'll anticipate that something went a little haywire as we've been off for 5 months and 1 day and come back in a very applicable spot, a 2L, number 4. Risky Guy, the offspring of Jump Start. Big price in here, my top pick, the 4. For second, number 8, going out this afternoon, taking on winners for the first time in the 13th start. But as I said, for me, folks, it's about the athlete going in the right direction. I'm happy to take on winners for the first time at 10-1. Now, previous to the victory in the 12th start, had hit the board in 7 of 11 and was going in a better direction. For third, number 5, Grand Jet Setter for Eddie Pleaser Jr., who, even if the daily racing form didn't show the numbers here, where he has been out of his mind, if you consider Saturday, November 30th, as the opening day of this meet, and you can sort of tell by the numbers that that's the way the daily racing form is looking at it. I think he won 2 on opening day, had 2 out of 10 runners finish off the board. Obviously, he was ready for this meet. Paco Lopez, who I think had 3 on opening day of this meet in the slop, 4, 8, 5. And oh, by the way, 6-1 is a fairy tale on the 5.
Let's move along to the 8th at Gulfstream Park, to the turf course. 7.5 furlongs, your favorite distance, Anthony, is a maiden claiming event for maidens 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Claiming price of $35,000 down to $30,000.
But my absolute most famous is about 7.5 furlongs that they run mostly at the fairgrounds. I say this because that means at the fairgrounds where they run about 7.5 and they run about a mile, that means someplace is exactly 7.5.
Okay.
There's no other way that they can't know exactly where 7.5 is. And I've said this before, and I'm not saying the good people at Gulfstream Park watch this show, but Jeff, we've been down this road before about the 7.5 at Gulfstream Park, and I have to say, I think it was last year or the year before, after about a month, they stopped running them. You know, and I've talked about this before. Jeff's a former trainer. I don't get it. If you're trainers want horses to run less distance, and I got to say this, as a pure outsider, I really have come to believe it is part pedigree, but I don't think it's a lot pedigree. I just think it's more work to train them to go long. That's the nicest way I can say it. So they go in the office and they say, we don't want to run a mile. You know, I think someday you're going to see them run a furlong and a half. So they say we want to run 7.5. How about you draw the 14 posts today going 7.5? Now, I don't think Jeff has ever been in the starting gate going 7.5 at Gulfstream Park on their turf course, but I'm sure it's a very, very interesting view. I'm like, go a mile. Give yourself a chance. Also, 13, 14, and 15 are the main track onlys. Now, remember, that's just pot luck. And the 16 isn't also eligible in this race. So the worst you're going to have is the 12-post position. I just don't get it. Hopefully they'll stop and they'll run a mile. But 4, 10, 5, I want no part of the outside. They're going to take a horse who's been off 18 months. But number 4, Win Exchange, is an offspring of Exchange Rate. I've been talking about him for 4 years as a stallion. Middle distance turf. I know he was a dirt runner. We run for a tag for the first time. We get Edgar Prado. I'll take my chances off the 18-month layoff. For a second, number 10, To Dare is to Do. The one question mark I have here, and it is a serious question mark, is at Delaware Park under Gabriel Saez in the most recent effort. When horses go through the rail, I mean, it's a temporary rail. I mean, you're wondering what it does to the horse. We've had some time off. If mentally we're a go, I think Paco Lopez is on a live runner here, but it is a legitimate, true question. And number for third is number 5, Cowboy Prince. 4, Gary Contessa, who I think is on vacation. 4, 10, 5.
You know, we talked about this 7.5 furlongs on the turf at Gulfstream Park. Several years ago, we talked about it. And no, I've never ridden that race, but I know we talked about the mile and a 16th on the main track at Laurel Park. And
how do you get there?
Well, see, Laurel Park, their circumference is a mile and 1/8. So at a mile and a 16th, you're basically braking right on the turn. And I remember my first year there was a mile and a 16th race. First one I rode, I had like the 8 or 9 post. And they loaded me in the gate. And I'm looking over and I'm like, wow, the 1, 2, and 3 have like a 3-length advantage on me right from the get-go because the turn comes up so quickly. And I approached somebody in the racing office that I knew well and mentioned it to him. And he said, Jeff, if I write that race a mile and 1/8, it doesn't go.
And my question has been, and Dave Rodman's, first I wasn't there, is I wonder why they got rid of the chute. I mean, that's why they invented the chute.
You know, I don't know anything. Again, it was before I'd gotten there, and now it's a softball field. I think it had something to do with access to the racetrack because there is an exit and an entrance that goes right past the mile chute.
Well, let's just say it's safe that we can bring back the mile 16 chute now.
Yeah, it would be nice. Actually, they're talking about completely reversing that whole racetrack, moving the grandstand to the backstretch where it is now and reconfigure. It's kind of crazy, but I guess they can pull it off. Moving along to the 9th at Gulfstream Park. 5 furlongs on the turf. Allowance optional claiming event, 3 and up.
13 is MTO, the 14 is an MTO, and the 15 is an AE, folks. 11, 6, and 9, they blink, it's over. Number 11 is Sturbridge Lion. To me, taking on winners for the first time, an offspring of Spicetown with good early lick, has already run sprinting on the turf. That was down at the fairgrounds to a runner-up position last year. For second, number 6, Kingston Bay. 2 starts at Saratoga this year, impressive in both. Victor in the second one, been laid off since August 29th, goes over to the Joe Orsino barn. And for third, number 9, United States 1. Even the 7th place finish at Laurel sprinting on the turf as the beaten 4-5 favorite was something positive to take out for this offspring of Candy Ride, who has done precipitously better sprinting on the turf than I thought that pedigree would indicate. Goes out from Michael Trambetta, 11, 6, and 9.
The finale at Gulfstream Park, another 7.5 furlongs on the turf. This time we're going to let inexperienced 2-year-olds handle that turn. It is a maiden claiming event. 35,000 down the third.
Get them all out of the way now. They also eligible, and that's the 7.5 furlong races, not the 2-year-olds. 13 through 16, the also eligible. Full field in here. 9, 3, 6, and Nantucket Sound gets my top pick. And for me, it's the hard spun angle. I think that's going to hurt us. But I think when the betting window's open, it's going to be the Eddie Plesa Jr. angle that's going to make the 6-1 folly. For second, number 3, Ben Jacob, who at 20-1, I cannot let an offspring of Mizzen Mass, middle distance turf, good post position, turf debut, pass me by. And as Jeff was just saying, you have to think the jocks getting in at the 1, 2, and 3 position, going 7.5, have to be thinking they have a slight edge. And for third, the horse who gets the negative edge, number 12, Track Telling, makes the turf debut, going 7.5 from the parking lot, 9, 3, 12.
And there you have it, Anthony's selections for today's 10-race card at Gulfstream Park. We're going to take another break. When we come back, you'll get my picks for Aqueduct. Please stay tuned. You're watching the OTB TV Network.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Funding your Capital OTB Bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Handicappers Report alongside Jeff Carl. I am Anthony Mormino, turning our attention to the Big A, ladies and gentlemen, where they are off the turf, and we are expecting some showers throughout the day, but please stay tuned at about 11:03. Tom Durkin will give us more official word, but it is official. They are off the turf at the Big A this afternoon, affecting 2 races on the 9-race card. We kick it off with 3-year-olds and up. Claimers in for $12,500, racing the one-turn dirt mile.
And as Anthony said, there is no official labeling of the main track right now, so just stay tuned. I'm assuming it's going to be at least muddy. 6-2-1 in the opener. Number 6, Winning Touch. Going to be exiting a victory for 12-5 beaten. This right here, this is an old-fashioned 12-5. This opener where it's basically there's none of that 3-part provisional. It's just a wide-open 12-5 claiming event. Winning Touch. I like the fact that he's stretching out, and it looks like he could be the lone speed in here today with a little bit of a sloppy track, some moisture in the track. Sometimes that'll carry these speed horses around there. So, again, coming out of a nice win for 12-5 beaten. I'm assuming that was one of the money parts that he was part of because he does have 4 wins to his credit. But here, I see Winning Touch just going to lead and galloping around there. For second, the number 2, Real Estate. Real Estate's going to be moving from Alan Jerkins' barn to son Jimmy Jerkins' barn. Alan Jerkins down at Gulfstream Park. Now Jimmy Jerkins probably keeping the better part of his stable up here at Aqueduct. And you know what? It might be sacrilege to say that, but that's probably a positive move. Alan Jerkins is just an icon of racing, but he is getting up there in age. And you know, from what I've seen in the mornings out there, maybe the help isn't exactly what it used to be. Real Estate's dropping down to 12-5 after the $20,000 level. I need him to run more like he did 3 races back at $14,000, where he kind of was right on the pace and stayed there at second. So if jockey Manuel Franco will be a little bit aggressive with Real Estate today, get him up in the race early at 10-1. I can make a decent exacta with the favorite Winning Touch on top. And for third, number 1, Terminus is going to be exiting a win at the $20,000 beaten level. Again, the $20,000 beaten level now to an open 12-5 is probably a parallel move. What he does have in his favor is the fact that he has won at this mile distance in his last race on the Aqueduct main track. 5-1 with Irad Ortiz. Let's throw him in the mix. 6-2-1 in the Aqueduct first race.
On to the second half of the early daily double. 2-year-old fillies, open company, maiden claimers in for 50, racing 6.
I went 7-3-5 here. The number 7 Flaring is very interesting to me. As you know, I like to really look for first-time starters in these maiden claiming events. And Flaring is a firster by Two Step Salsa, who's the son of Petionville. And what I thought was interesting was the work pattern of this filly. Back this summer at Monmouth, she was throwing in some bullet works. 101 handily from the gate, another bullet work after that. And then all of a sudden she had a long break in between her workout pattern, which obviously maybe there's something physically happened. But subsequent work since then haven't been that great at Belmont Park. So scratch your head a little bit. This filly was, burning up the racetrack in the mornings this summer, and now it's kind of leveled off a little bit. But the last work coming into this race on November 29th at the Belmont Training Track was a real nice 102 breezing out of the gate, was second out of 19. So maybe more of a sign of what we saw from her this summer where she was throwing in those bullets at Monmouth Park. I like the way she's posted on the outside for a first-time starter on a sloppy or muddy racetrack. She's not going to get a lot of that kickback. Eddie Castro aboard. Let's put Flarin at 15-1 on top. For second, I'm going to go with the number 3, Wickedly Sweet, who is 8-5 in the morning line. She has 3 seconds in a row, but she's been the beaten favorite twice at Laurel Park at the $40,000 level, and Anthony's experience tells me that those horses aren't all that tough. Again, she's going to be 8-5 with Tony Dutrow, Irad Ortiz aboard. If she bounces out of it like she did last time, she could be tough to run down. But you know what? The number 7, Flaring, the first-time starter, was very intriguing to me. I'm going 7-3, and the number 5, Brown Melissa. Brown Melissa, daughter of Big Brown, was 4th behind Wickedly Sweet in her last race. But again, she could improve a little bit. Let's put her in the 3rd spot at 12-1. 7-3-5 in the Aqueduct second race.
On to the 3rd race, our newest type of capital B races, which are 3-year-olds and up, non-winners at 3 lifetime, or 3-year-olds, non-winners on the dirt since June 6th, racing 6.5.
Yeah, this is one of those 3-part claiming events that we talk about. I went 1 entry, 6 and 2 here. The David Jacobson entry of Not My First Time in Sports Writer. They both fit the 3rd part of this condition where they haven't won a race on the dirt since June 5th. The plain one, Not My First Time, last one on the dirt on May 17th at the optional claiming never win one life level. Last couple starts have been on the turf, haven't been bad. Now switching back to the dirt at its proper level. So let's put, I kind of like Not My First Time a little bit better than Sports Writer, who's actually quite capable also. He's coming out of the New York Stallion Series where he was, finished 5th, 6 lengths behind Commandante, but he is 0 for 2013, so he hasn't visited the winner's circle at all this year. So, I think it's a formidable entry. Either one is quite capable. I kind of like Not My First Time a little bit better. For second, I went with the number 7, Sakatumi Samurai. Sakatumi Samurai ran behind Backen last time out, and there's a lot of buzz about Backen. This horse trained by Chad Brown, broke his maiden in fine fashion, came back in any other than. There's talk about him. I still need to see a little bit more from him before I'm going to ordain him as a special horse, but he's gotten through his first conditions pretty nicely. My second choice here is number 6, Sakatumi Samurai. As I said, was Chase Backen around there, but fits the 3rd part of the entry. Hasn't won since April, but just back to the $35,000 level where he should belong. Put him in the 2nd spot. And for 3rd, the number 2, Wee Freudian, down on the inside, was a distant 2nd in a similar race in his previous start. And again, this one fits the 3rd part of the entry, so I'm kind of going with all the horses that fit the 3rd part of this condition. 0 for 2013, just needing to be on the board. 1 entry, 6 and 2.
Now we're up to New York State bred Daily Double, going a mile in both of them. The first one, 3-year-olds and up, maiden special weights.
8, 3, and 4 here. The number 8, Sunny Sider, is your 2-1 morning line favorite. And this is another one moving from the Alan Jerkins barn to Jimmy Jerkins. Also moving from turf to dirt. It's been primarily running on turf, throughout this whole summer. 0 for 10 lifetime, but I think this one's caught a maiden field that he should be able to beat. If you look back to May 25th, in the mud at Belmont, finished 3rd in maiden special weight, so definitely can handle a little bit of moisture in the racetrack. And again, this one's 2-1 in the morning line. Again, well posted on the outside. Let's put the number 8, Sunny Sider, on top. For second, I went down to the number 3, One Cat's Chance. And I need to forgive his last race, which I'm not exactly sure what happened, but 2 races back was a very good second at 18-1 at today's mile distance, and it's only had 4 races in his career. So again, if I can forgive that last race, he got a little bit of bump at the break, and maybe it was an issue, maybe it wasn't. But for some reason, he didn't run as well as he did 2 back. I think he can revert back to that start. He was 2 back. He was 18-1 that day. I don't know if I'm going to get that today because this is a pretty weak maiden special weight field. But if I can get close to that 10-1 to hook up with Sunny Sider, I'd be very, very happy. And for 3rd, the number 4, Jesse's Giant Dunk. Finished behind One Cat's Chance 2 starts back when One Cat's Chance run well, and then was a distant 3rd subsequently. And that one's 3-1 in the morning line. One Cat's Chance is 10-1. So, I mean, if you're looking for a little bit of value, the last time One Cat's Chance ran a good race, he did beat Jesse's Giant Duck quite easily. So 8, 3, and 4, the Aqueduct 4th race.
On to the 5th, staying with the New York Breds, racing the dirt one-turn mile. We have 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, optionals in for 35, or non-winners or 2 other than.
I went 1, 2, and 3. Pretty easy there. The number 4, Great Gracie Dane, is 2-1 morning line favorite. And I didn't throw this one in the mix, Anthony, because it looks a little suspicious to me. They ran her in the Dancing Renee last time, and she just got slaughtered that day. But that was off a layoff since January, where she was claimed for $35,000. Now they're putting her back to $35,000. I'm a little bit suspicious of the fact that Steve Asmussen claims her for $35,000, and they're not in the business to be sitting on horses. Why she was sitting on obviously something went wrong that she didn't get back to the entry box for, what we're talking, a very long time, and that was in June, and now hasn't run since June, and she's dropping down to $35,000. This looks like a dump to me. I mean, if she's fine, let her beat me, but I'm not even going to look at her being part of the picture at 2-1. We talked about Chucky Lopez earlier. I went 1, 2, and 3. The number 1, Marcy, you know what? Chucky's going to go with this filly, and he's got the 1 hole. Obviously, this filly does not like turf. She's the daughter of a fleet Alex. The 2 turf tries were just abysmal. She was 104-1 last time on the turf. If you look all the way back to February, in the mud at Aqueduct, in the entry-level state bred condition, she was 4th, got beat 2 lengths. You know what? She's 20-1 the morning line in the mud with Chucky on board. Chucky's going to send. They just might let him fly around there. Let's put Marcy on top. For 2nd, the number 2, Hot Splash. Jason Service claimed this filly off a winning effort for the 20,000 beaten. Jason is 29% first off the claim. Also has a little bit of early foot, and I expect her to be tracking Marcy around there. So let's go 1, 2, and then the number 3, Typhoon Terry, who's exiting a winning effort at today's 1-mile distance. That was the entry-level state bred, so she's moving the natural progression up. She's 8-1. 1, 2, and 3, Aqueduct 5th race.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, second half of today's action from the Big A.
I'm Steve Beck.
And I'm Seth Merrill.
Together, we're loose on the lead on Capital OTB, Sundays at 10 a.m. Why should they watch, Seth?
Sit down on Sunday, have a bagel, get some great racing conversation.
Cream cheese only, no jelly. Sundays, 10 a.m., loose on the lead, Capital OTB.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right, the 2013 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes and a seat at the 2014 National Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month, the Capital Cup on December 7th. So sign up today online at capitalotb.com or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook. And don't forget our Showviver series, Capital OTB's online handicapping contest.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB television network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Handicappers Report alongside Jeff Carlisle and Anthony Mormino. Remembering that we are off the turf at the Big A this afternoon, and we have 3-year-olds and up, open company, non-winners of 1 other than 1 mile and 1/8 on the dirt.
And you have to go right out there to the MTOs, 14, 12, and 13. The number 14, Tiz Chris, I'm going to put on top. Tiz Chris started out his career as a 2-year-old, running second to Normandy Invasion, who is back in training. We don't know exactly where he's going to be making his 4-year-old debut, but definitely showed a lot of ability as a young 3-year-old. But since then, Tiz Chris went to the shelf, didn't come back to the races until August of this year at Saratoga, finished second in the maiden special weight. Then when they stretched him out to mount a 16th, he got the job done that day, and I look for Tiz Chris to get through that entry-level allowance race today. For second, I'll go with the number 12, Mighty Ian. Mighty Ian will be seeking his third straight win. A nice score in his last race, which is an optional claimer start allowance at the $35,000 level. 6 races in his career, 3 wins and a second. But I think the water's a little bit deeper. There's some tough dudes here on these main track only horses. And although he's had 3 career wins, those are the claiming level. So he's obviously still eligible for this allowance condition. But I think the water's a little bit deeper here. I'll put him in the second spot. And for third, the number 13, Fortify, who could easily win this race. He was grade 1 placed last year in the Hopeful Stakes and the Champagne, and didn't run poorly in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Then he went over to Dubai in February, ran very evenly there, went to the shelf, came back November 9th at this entry-level allowance race. Finished 6th, but only got beat a little bit less than 2 lengths. Probably needed that race. He could very easily win this, but I'm still a little bit of a question mark how he came back from that Dubai race. 14, 12, 13 in the Aqueduct 6th race.
On to the 7th, Open Company, 3-year-olds and up. Fillies and Mares, optional claimers in for 62. Non-winners are 2 other than sprinting 6.
I went the Rudy Rodriguez entry on top with 7 and 3. And I do like the plain one, the Princess, a little bit better. She's in for the 62.5 portion of this event. Very strong winning effort last time at the exact same level. So if she can duplicate it this time, I think the Princess, if I get 5-2, that'd be great. The 1A Lion DNA, probably in over her head. She's also in for the 62.50 portion of the race. I like playing one much better. If that one scratches, this whole thing would be switched around for me. But I'm inclined to believe that Rudy would go with the Princess and look for her to score again right back at this level. For second, I went with the number 7, My Place Anytime. Again, looking for a little bit of value to hook up with the Princess. My Place Anytime is in for the claiming portion of this. Has speed, has Chucky Lopez aboard. Couldn't hold on last time against the Princess and Air to Dare, who's in here. They finished 1-2. But I just need her to get a little bit better today. Maybe the sloppy track will help carry her along. Back at Monmouth, she won on a sloppy track back in June, won very, very easily. So maybe the slop will help carry her along a little bit. And, if I box that exactly, I wouldn't even mind if she finished on top at 10-1. So let's put her in the second spot. For third, I'll go with the number 3, Expression. Expression, boy, she was beaten by a tough cookie named Ullapool, who's going to be running in the Garland of Roses tomorrow. And that was in her last race in mid-October at this level. She should be saving ground. She should be running late, but I think the speed just might get away from her today. But I do like her in the third spot. So the 1 entry, 7 and 3 in the Aqueduct 7th race.
On to the 8th, back to New York State Breds, 3-year-olds and up. Fillies and Mares, the Touch of Love Stakes, racing 7.5 furlongs.
You know what, 6, 8, and 4, and the big question for La Verdad today, my top choice is whether or not she's going to be able to handle the stretch out from 6 furlongs to 7.5. There's not another turn to worry about, and she's so fast. This is the daughter of Yes It's True, who didn't break her maiden in her first start, but since then has just rolled through her conditions. She broke her maiden in April, came back in May and won the A other than, took a break, came back in the first week in November, and just galloped. So I really think that she's going to be able to handle this. If this was a 2-turn race or maybe a mile and there was some pressure up front, I'd be a little bit of a question mark, but I think the 7.5, the Yes It's True in the slop, again, she won in the mud 2 starts back in May, so I think she's going to be able to carry her speed to 7.5 furlongs. For second, I went with the number 8, Frosty Bay, and I'm hoping for a nice little exacta here because Frosty Bay did win 2 state bred stakes on the turf this summer, but again, if you look all the way back to last December, she did break her maiden in the slop, so switching back to the dirt, getting some moisture in her racetrack, I don't think it's going to hurt her. She's very intriguing to me at 20-1. She does obviously have some class. She is a state bred stakes winner, and I think maybe she'll fly under the radar a little bit at a nice price. Let's put Frosty Bay in the second spot. For third, I went with the number 4, Miss Valentine. She's been chasing Willett throughout the year, and The reason I didn't put Willet in the mix is Willet just ran a week ago in the Gopher Wand, and when you look back, they seem like they spaced Willet's races out a little bit more than a week. I don't see where she's come back in a week span. She's 9 to 5 in the morning line. I have a lot of respect for her, but I do question her coming back in such short fashion. So again, I'm keeping her out of my mix. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's going to run well in a week, but I don't see it on paper where she's done that. So for the third spot, I'm going to put in Miss Valentine. It is 6, 8, and 4 for me in the Aqueduct 8th race.
In the finale, 3-year-olds and up, Open Company, Maiden Claimers 35 off the turf, racing a mile in the dirt.
You know, Anthony, there were no MTOs in here, but you'd have to assume that the AEs are going to get out. We'll be able to run today. I went to the 1 entry, 5 and the 2. The plain one, today, not tomorrow, is 31 the morning line, and probably should be. I don't expect that. That was the one I was really looking at. But the 1A on the AE looks very, very intriguing to me. Elisa Town. I don't think she's going to be 30 to 1. I hope she runs. She's had 3 races in her career. They've all been on the turf at, the 40,000 maiden claiming, but she has speed. She's by Spitestown. She has Chucky Lopez named aboard, and Chucky's also named on the number 8 BB's Passion. If BB Passion stays in, I'm not sure how that's going to work, which one he's going to ride. But I'd like to see Chucky on the 1A, Elisa Town. I think he's just going to gun her right from the get-go. And I don't think you're going to get the 30 to 1, but maybe she's going to be a decent price. We'll put her in the top spot. For second, I went with the number 5, Skinny Margarita, moving up from the $16,000 maiden claiming level. But this is a pretty weak field. She's only run twice, and she's had 2 seconds, so I think she can hang in there for a decent price at 8 to 1. And for second, I went down to the inside to number 2, Flamingo Lane, moving back to dirt. Maybe she'll have a little early foot also. Let's put her in the third spot. So 1 entry, 5, and 2 in the Aqueduct finale.
And that wraps up a look at the Big A this afternoon. And this afternoon on TV 12, a full list of racing on this Friday, kicking off with Finger Lakes. Just a few more days to go, ladies and gentlemen, at Finger Lakes. Aqueduct, Tampa Bay Downs, Gulfstream, Hawthorne, Hollywood Park, talking about just a couple more days to go. Penn National, Saratoga, Yonkers, Meadowlands, Woodbine Harness, Australia A and B later on this evening. If you missed any of Jeff or my picks, you go to capitalotb.com, click on the Handicappers Report. You'll get a full listing of those. In addition, Capital Off-Track Betting about 6 weeks ago kicked off a new wagering platform. We invite you to get on board. CapitalOTBBet.com, a state-of-the-art wagering platform for the 21st century. And we also invite you to stay tuned. Up next, Seth Merrill will be in with his very special guests on Racing Across America. Ron Nicoletti, must be Gulfstream Park time, and yes, it is. Also, Brian Spencer from the Fairgrounds and Frank Vespi, TheRacingBiz.com, taking a look at the stakes races at Laurel this Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your horse racing action this afternoon. We'll see you next time.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.